Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, everyone. You already know the deal by now. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis with you right here. Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio with you for the next couple hours because, Adam, we've got the NFL draft coming up. How you doing? How's it going?
Doing well, obviously, going through all the rumors and speculation and the smoke screens. It's a wild time, but it's going to be a fun week. Can't wait to get the draft underway.
There are rumors starting already, and I don't know a better person to talk to about these rumors where the Dallas Cowboys are who the Dallas Cowboys are going to take, if the Seattle Seahawks are going to break my heart, than lead draft analyst for PFF, Trevor Sikkema. He joins us here right off the top. Trevor, welcome in. Thanks for doing this.
I appreciate you guys having me on the show. Now I feel like there's a lot of pressure if you ask me a Seahawks question. I actually don't know your thoughts on the Seahawks, so I can't like cheat and give you like the prospect that you actually want. So whatever my honest answer is, that's what it is. So we might see heartbreak live on this show, but we'll see.
That's fine. It's the same with the Cowboys. Adam just wants anyone that's going to help him, and he's already just decided that they're going to break his heart anyway. I've also decided that, Trevor, because why would the Seahawks take an interior offensive lineman in the first round when they could have another receiver? It's just they're going to do something, right? It's just crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, it's a fantasy show, so they're doing it for your audience. They're actually trying to help out they're trying to help out you guys with the stats.
Fair enough. And that's, where all our questions are going to come from today because, Trevor, as you know, this is fantasy football, and we kind of have to look at some of these guys and say, all right, best case scenario for fantasy and the fantasy players for 2025. So, of course, I have to ask you right off the top about Ashton Jeanty, right? I mean, he takes three visits. He goes to the Raiders, the Bears, and the Cowboys. Now the latest is that maybe a team is going to be bold enough to trade at number 5 with the Jacksonville Jaguars to try and get him. So I have to ask you, I mean, he is that good, right? He is that once in a lifetime running back where you say, yeah, it makes sense to trade up to number 5 to get Ashton Jeanty?
So I wouldn't say now the prospect himself, excellent. I mean, Ashton Jeanty is about as good as you can get. I think that it is insulting to Alvin Kamara how much people use Alvin Kamara comps like year to year. They'll be like, oh, this guy broke one tackle and he kept running. He's Alvin Kamara. Or that he catches like one swing pass out of the backfield and they just go, oh, see, he can catch. He's Alvin Kamara. And I think it's absolutely insulting to how good Kamara has been throughout his career, especially at his peak. But the shoe fits with Ashton Jeanty, as do some other really high comps for how good of a football player this is. Now, when you're short of like justifying where you should take him in the NFL draft, I think you have to talk about just overall where your roster is, where your team is. I think he is worthy of a top 10 overall selection to a team like the Chicago Bears, who has already done their due diligence, making sure the offensive line is exactly what it needs to be. You have the quarterback, you have the pass catchers, you have the offensive-minded head coach, and you even have the defense behind him. So everything is pretty much put into place. It feels like a similar situation to that of Saquon Barkley going over to the Philadelphia Eagles. And it was like, okay, they basically had everything else, and they simply added Saquon Barkley, and we saw the production that we got there from the Eagles and then making a Super Bowl run and getting all the way there. So I'm not saying that the Bears are going to make the Super Bowl if they draft Ashton Jeanty, but I will say that the team gets significantly better. So I think 10 is the floor, to be honest with you. I think he could go as high as the number 4 overall New England Patriots. I've heard that they really like him. Now, would they draft him at number 4 again? I think that'd be a little bit of a stretch, but I think his range is anywhere from number 4 all the way to number 10, but I just cannot see him getting past the Chicago Bears at number 10.
It's funny that you mentioned Kamara, by the way, because I saw Cam Scadaboo comp to Alvin Kamara the other day, Trevor. So if you want to go that far, Forks up, we love Arizona State in this household. If you want to say, for our socials and just for a clip that Cam Scadaboo is the next Alvin Kamara, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it at all.
You're not going to hear those words from me, although I am a big Cam Scadaboo fan. He is my RB3 in this class. I still feel like if you wanted to take him with a second-round pick in this upcoming draft, it would be worthwhile. For example, if Ashton Jeanty's off the board and say the Chicago Bears are taking Tyler Warren in the first round, like if they drafted Cam Scadaboo with pick 39 or pick 41, I think that'd be a pretty ideal situation. I won't call him Alvin Kamara, but I do see him similarly to like a Kyren Williams and just how good, how steady, how great of a production player he is as the engine that makes that offense run there for the Los Angeles Rams. Somebody who will never say die, gives you a little bit in the passing game, great pass protector as well. That's my pro comp for Cam Scadaboo, because both had some athletic questions going into the pros, but very clearly it has not hampered Kyren Williams from being the back that he's needed to be for that team.
Wide receiver Luther Burden seems to be one of the polarizing players in this draft. What's your assessment of him?
think Luther Burden's great, man. I really do. I thought that 2013 season was awesome from him. This 2024 season was a major dip in production, but the offense was bad. I mean, and that's like me being nice, like saying it like that. I've gone back and I've watched a couple more Luther Burden games because I'm higher on him. I have him in my top 20. He's a top 20 overall player for me. I think he should absolutely be a first round guy. And I think it's very trendy to not have Luther Burden in first round mock drafts. It feels like that's the direction we're going. It feels like he's going to be an early second round pick instead of a first round pick. But man, what this guy can do after the catch, the missed tackles force per reception average that he has, what he does as a screen player, as a slant player, and then what he can develop into as a route runner. I know he's not the best route runner right now, but you look at the body control that he has, how he can stop and start, how he creates that separation. You get him with a good wide receiver coach, and to me, that is somebody who I think can become an excellent separator at the NFL level. So he's not a finished product, but man, just the talent level overall is so impressive for Luther Burden, and it just feels as though the league is just not as high on him. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if they've heard things like, all right, well, he's not going to achieve the ceiling that his athletic potential has sort of like yielded, or at least given us a hint into what it could be at the pro level. But man, from my vantage point, just watching the tape, I love that 2023 tape. And I think there is a very good excuse why 2024 was not the same way, because that offense was bad. He was the guy that they were trying to get the ball in his hands at all times, and sometimes they couldn't even do that. So I think it's going to be easier for him at the NFL level to showcase his talents.
It has to be interesting for you, Trevor, when you are going through your like all these pre-draft processes and you say, hey, I'm higher on Luther Burden. Where do you, first of all, my question is, where do you have him in your rankings? Is he right after Teteroa McMillan for you? And then seeing guys like maybe a Matthew Golden and a Emeka Egbuka go up and up and up for all these other teams, where you sit back and you say, hey, wait a minute, I'm still waiting for Luther Burden to get his.
Yeah, so he's 15th overall on my big board. He's wide receiver 2 for me behind Teteroa McMillan. I have Emeka Egbuka not too far behind him at 19th overall on my big board, and then Matthew Golden is 24th. So a lot of these 4 wide receivers, they're all in my top 25, but I am pretty confident in the order in which I would take them. I think that if there is a debate, it's less of Emeka Egbuka and Luther Burden, or it's less of Matthew Golden and Luther Burden. It's more of, okay, like I could see some people who say, all right, Emeka Egbuka is my wide receiver 2 here above a Luther Burden. I could go, okay, I could see that. I think they're different types of players. I think that Egbuka presents a little bit higher of a floor than Luther Burden does. He's not quite the explosive and change of direction type of athlete, but he's more fluid in his routes. He understands how to create that subtle separation in what he's doing. So I could see that if you want somebody who's a little bit more pro ready, you're drafting an Emeka Egbuka. But to be honest, I think all 4 of these wide receivers should be considered in the first round. I don't know if all of them are going to go in the first round, but to me, they have that caliber of talent.
Where do you have Jalen Noel? What is your thoughts on him going to the NFL?
So I have Jalen Noel 79th on my big board. I have him as somebody who I think would be a really nice 3rd round pick. It feels like the league could be a little bit higher on him going into the 2nd round. I like him, but there's just not a lot of offenses in the NFL that have a role for like the vertical stretching slot wide receiver that he is. Because he's not exactly, even though he's kind of built like a slot receiver and he's got the explosiveness of a slot receiver, he doesn't really play that type of game. He wasn't really a yards after catch guy at Iowa State, and I think some of that is designed into the offense, but others of it is, I just don't think that that's naturally what he wants to do. He really wants to get up the field, showcase that track speed, showcase that long speed, and that explosiveness, getting off the line of scrimmage, getting from 0 to 60, if you will, getting into his top speed and getting beyond those slot corners and trying to manipulate those safeties. He likes to get vertical a lot. There's just not a lot of offenses that prioritize a player of his size as a vertical threat from the slot. And if you want him to be more of a quick hit, short yardage type of player, you're sort of just asking him to do something that he wasn't asked to do a lot when he was at Iowa State. That's not to say he can't do it, because I do think he's a good athlete, but that wasn't really part of his game. So if that's still in there, if you believe that he can be that slot separator, yards after catch type of a player, I understand why the NFL would be in on him as a 2nd round pick. But as he is right now, I like him more in round 3, a little bit closer to day 3 in that range.
Talking with Trevor Sikkema here, PFF lead draft analyst, just a couple days away here, Trevor. So I have to ask you, I think Thor Nystrom, our own Thor Nystrom, calls him King Tootin after the combine. He was like, he deserves a good nickname after that 4.3 240. So I'm really curious, like, what you see in him, and maybe if he's, not a sleeper for anyone that's been covering, this long of the draft, but for people just kind of getting into it, if he's a name that people should know.
He's an extremely explosive player. I mean, Thor obviously pointing out some of the combine numbers that he had, which were incredible. Extensive track background going back to his days in high school. I believe he has the indoor 60-meter record in the state of New Jersey, if I'm not getting my prospects mixed up correctly. So, I mean, like, we're talking about a true track star. And when he was at North Carolina A&T, much like Tariq Cohen, who a lot of people comp him to, who was at North Carolina A&T as well before he was at Virginia Tech, just speed for days. The worry with him, fumbles. Fumbles are a huge issue for him over the last 2 years. I believe he was, he might have been 0th percentile in fumbles in our system, which, out of 0 and 100, you want to be at 100. You don't want to be at 0. And that just shows that he led, I believe, college football for the draft eligible running backs in fumbles over the last 2 years. And so he has to take care of the football better. But when you get him behind a zone blocking scheme in the right offense, man, he can read those aiming points and he can get up the sideline and go. And we saw that so many times when he was at Virginia Tech this past season. And so I'm a little bit more wary of him, because when you got a fumbling problem in college football, it don't get easier for you when these guys get bigger, faster, stronger on the defensive side, and they know you have a fumbling issue. They're going to be looking to punch out the ball at all times. So it does not get easier in the pros. I'm a little bit worried about that, but there's certainly no doubting the athleticism with him.
Who's a running back that you're higher on than consensus, and why?
RJ Harvey from UCF is my boy.
Nice.
I loved Bucky Irving in last year's class, and he's sort of my version of Bucky Irving this year. Now, I don't think he's as strong as Bucky was, but man, a lot of the reasons why I loved Bucky and the numbers and the data points that pointed to Bucky being a good pro exist with RJ Harvey. The two metrics that we like to look at PFF that try to separate individual ability for running backs beyond just the offensive line in front of them, because that's always the question, right? Is a running back good just because the offensive line's good, or are they actually good? Those two metric points are missed tackles forced per attempt and yards after contact per attempt. That's really what we're looking for, because that's independent of whether you get hit in the backfield, whether you get hit at the line of scrimmage, or whether you get hit for the first time in the second level and beyond, or whenever you are facing your first defender, if it's behind the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, or beyond. You being able to make guys miss, force those missed tackles, and take contact and get yards after contact is independent of however your offensive line plays. RJ Harvey, over the last 2 years, above 80th percentile in both of those categories. He had an elite rushing grade this past season, and his tape just at times looks very similar to that of a Bucky Irving. And so he is my guy in this class, in this running back class, that I feel like I'm championing more than most.
Trevor, it's like fantasy football managers, what they want to hear. You're telling us that we could get another Bucky Irving in 2025 and it's RJ Harvey. It's music to our ears right now. So I want to keep going, and I want to talk to you about the tight ends, because as much as has been said about this running back class is really deep, you've got two really good tight ends off the top in Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland. And I'm curious, if Tyler Warren goes to the Colts, is that maybe the worst case scenario for him from a fantasy football perspective? Maybe you're playing with Anthony Richardson, or is he just such a good prospect and such a good guy that could come into the NFL that it doesn't really matter what his landing spot is? He's just going to be that good.
Yeah, I think it's certainly from a team building perspective, I think it would be great for the Colts. But from a fantasy perspective, you do bring up great points, because not only are there a lot of mouths to feed in that offense with A.D. Mitchell and Josh Downs and Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman Jr., and obviously what they do with Jonathan Taylor in the run game as well, but the quarterbacks are inconsistent, Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. And so I think that a combination of that, getting to that spot again, I think it's a great team building aspect for them, but a fantasy point of view, it might be tough. As much as I like Tyler Warren, he's not coming into the NFL, in my opinion, with like enough pedigree to say, yeah, he's like option one in the passing game now. You'd probably set him up situationally, and he might be good for a handful of catches every week, and you feel at least good about that. But is he ever going to be like a 100-yard receiver for you? I'm just not sure. I'm not sure how much they would emphasize him amongst all the receiving options that they already have on the team.
So do you consider either one of those two a potential Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta, or do you think this is the year that we kind of skip over that, elite tight end for fantasy and just overall for their teams?
No, I mean, I think that there are some landing spots for those guys that could be great. Like even with Evan Ingram in Denver, I think if Colson Loveland were to make it to the Denver Broncos, I think that because they need a wide receiver 2 type of a player, I think that he could absolutely be a monster for them there. If Loveland gets to the Chargers, I mean, Jim Harbaugh already knows what to do with the guy. I mean, he already knows how talented he is. So I think that's a massive landing spot for him for fantasy perspective. If he gets there, him and Lad McConkey are absolutely without question those top 2 options on the team. The Rams kind of are sort of a fit as well. I'm not sure he makes it to 26, but again, if he does, I think he gets a good amount of targets, even with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams in that offense. But I think that those are a couple of landing spots that if those 2 tight ends make it to that, they could still see production in their rookie years.
We know it's not the best quarterback class, and I've seen different people have different quarterbacks as number 1. Who's your favorite quarterback in this class?
I still do like Cam Ward as my QB1. I think if I'm going to bet on any of these guys, which I don't have a first-round grade on any of these quarterbacks, Cam Ward has the highest, and it's a second-round grade. And the reason why I would bet on him, the reason why I'm okay with the Titans taking him number 1 overall is because as much as he dug his team in a hole this past season at Miami a handful of times, he also dug him out a lot. And so he gives you the things that you worry about with some of the boneheaded turnover-worthy plays, but he also gives you the ceiling of a guy who can be an all-pro quarterback in this league. So at least you have a player who you can bet on the ceiling being that of a player worthy of a number 1 overall selection. I have Shedeur Sanders as my second quarterback, but I don't have him on my big board until 45. And then the guy that's the total wild card who I have his QB3 is Jalen Milroe. I mean, if we're going to be honest, from a fantasy perspective, Milroe, and then the guy that I have as my QB4, Will Howard, I think could potentially make some noise from a fantasy perspective next season just because of what both of those guys can potentially do with their legs. Now, they would have to land in obviously advantageous situations where they're able to compete for a starting gig, they're able to get a starting gig, but those 2 players, at least we know what kind of a cheat code guys like Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and those players are because they have that rushing ability to them. From a fantasy perspective, the 2 quarterbacks that I'd be paying attention to the most, obviously you could with Cam Ward just because you think that he'll start no matter what with the Titans this year, but Jalen Milroe and Will Howard are those other 2 wild cards that I'd be looking at.
Amazing. Well, Trevor, thank you so much again for joining us here today. Lead draft analyst over there at PFF. Make sure you all are giving him a follow and have fun this week. It's almost like it's everything coming kind of to a close here. So like Merry Christmas, Merry Draftmas, whatever you want to say. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, guys. Anytime. Y'all enjoy draft week as well.
All right, there he goes. Trevor Sikkema again, lead draft analyst over there at PFF. We're going to continue on here previewing and looking forward to the NFL draft. We are going to preview tight ends coming up next. Oh, we are so back. We are getting you ready for the NFL draft just days away, and we are so excited to have you here with us. Have to remind you all, as always, to go to fantasylife.com. If you want to know everything there is to know about the NFL draft for 2025, that is where you need to go. You've got the Thor 500 that is live. We're going to be talking with Thor Nystrom here in a little bit. You've got the rookie supermodel from Dwayne McFarlane as well. So everything, best bets, bold predictions, everything is there. fantasylife.com, 100% free, so that's where you got to go. Adam, you want to talk some more tight end previews? Because they're for what it's worth, like everyone has said, hey, this is a great running back class, but there are a good handful of tight ends that for our fantasy football purposes, depending of course on landing spot, that could make some waves here in a couple days.
And we certainly could use some infusion of talent at the tight end position. It feels like every year at the beginning, oh yeah, this is a lot of depth at tight end, and then the season starts and the people who missed out on the top tight ends are like, yeah, I'm hurting at tight end. So we could definitely use some help at the tight end position. It looks like we're going to get it.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, this is the thing, though, like looking at last season when we looked at some of those scores, I was like, hey, this is sometimes why you wait, because the difference between, the top 3 to 5 is a pretty good amount. But then you get over to like I don't know, Tucker Kraft, David Njoku, Hunter Henry, they were back to back to back in fantasy points last season. So I'm just saying, you're right. We need some more talent in here. So let's get it started here. I think the one guy we've talked a lot about, shouldn't say always talked about, but the one guy that we've talked the most about is Tyler Warren, because for most people, he is tight end 1 in this class. And it just depends. It's between him, Colston Loveland. It feels like, too, after talking with Trevor Sikkema, like he's just worth the hype. I think I've decided, though, Adam, that my favorite landing spot for him, if he does not go to the Colts and we say we want to get the best fantasy value out of him, might be going to the Chicago Bears. So that's kind of where I'm going to stick at. But like any way that you can get the ball into Tyler Warren's hands, that's what they tried to do at Penn State, and that's what they did. So he was so good. And last season he averaged 8.4 yards per carry as a runner, 5.1 after contact, broke 11 tackles on 25 rushing attempts. Like he's like in that when you talk about the wildcat quarterback in short yardage situations that Thor Nystrom does, like that's what he can do as well. So it just feels like he's bringing a ton of talent to the NFL. Like Trevor said, it just depends on where he goes. Maybe he can't be that guy that helps the Indianapolis Colts win every single game, and it just is with Anthony Richardson over there. But he's so talented that if he landed for me with the Chicago Bears, I'd be so ecstatic.
Yeah, it feels like he's not going to last into the Colts. I think he'll be taken before 14. The other aspect of his game that you like, you don't care about this for fantasy, but what it does, it keeps him on the field. He's a really good blocker, so that's going to help the run game as well. He's got great size, 6'6", 260 pounds.
Yep.
Is good after the catch as well. I mean, the only thing is not a great separator, but everything else is there. And if he just goes to the right team in an offense that's going to utilize it, which you think they would. If you're going to take a tight end that early, I said it last year with Brock Bowers. It didn't matter what the quarterback situation was. When you take a tight end that early, you're highly invested. You're going to find a way to get the ball to them. And it's the same way with Tyler Warren.
Yeah, and that's why I want to believe too, Adam, that even if it is the Colts that he goes to, that he's just going to be so good that the quarterback situation won't matter. But I guess it's different what was his completion percentage? 46?
47% for Richardson. Yeah.
Like, it's just, there's nothing you can, like, it just doesn't matter how, like, the quarterback situation, when you can't complete passes, that's the one thing we need for football in general, not even fantasy football. So, and that's the other part of Tyler Warren's game that was cool to see in the improvement department, was that, he had a 15% drop rate on 49 targets 2023. And then in 2024, that came down to a 2.8% drop rate over 135 targets. So he's definitely someone that we've seen elevate his game throughout college, and there's no reason to think that he's not going to be able to do that in the NFL. Again, it's just going to be fun to see the landing spot, because Adam, talking with Trevor and talking with everyone else for these past couple of days, it just, the blue chip talent isn't necessarily there in this draft. So I'm with you, where I think that maybe he doesn't even last to the Colts, and these guys like a Genty, a Tyler Warren go in the top 10, just because people look at them and say, hey, this is just where we have to go. Because the talent in last year's draft compared to this year's is just not there.
Yeah, definitely, especially for elite prospects. Yeah. But we know that I think he's going to be drafted as a tight end 1 in fantasy, regardless of where he lands.
Ooh,
and
okay.
a lot of that,
I agree.
Right? And a lot of it also has to do with the tight end landscape as well. And I think we've seen the rookies the last couple of years come in and make a big impact. 2 years ago, people were reluctant to take a rookie tight end early, and then you've seen what Sam Laporta has done and Brock Bowers. And even if it's not to that level, Warren certainly has the ability to put up good fantasy numbers.
He would go probably, 4th round? Early in the 4th round, depending on landing spot right now, when we look at
I don't know if you think he would go that early. I don't think he'd go that early.
No, probably. I'm just trying to be, I don't know. George Kittle's going in the 5th.
Yeah, I don't think he goes ahead of Kittle.
6th round, Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta is the only tight end right now going in the 6th round.
Yeah, probably after Laporta.
Before TJ Hawkinson. How about that? That's where we'll slate him in.
Landing spot will dictate that. It's possible.
You're like, no. Look at me. I'm like, 4th round? You're like, no. How about the 7th round? Let's cool it on the Tyler Warren. Listen, you know me. I just get really excited about it. Colston Loveland is the other one. So those are the 2 tight ends. If you're just kind of getting to know this NFL draft landscape, these are the 2 best tight ends coming out. It'll be tight end 1 for Warren for most, and then Colston Loveland coming in as tight end 2. Actually came in as tight end 1 in the supermodel that I've mentioned here from Dwayne McFarland that you can can find at fantasylife.com. But he was a 3-year starter at Michigan, and he was just versatile. They knew how to use him, and he was one of the most talented players on that roster from the time that he stepped foot over there. And he was used also all over the formation, right? You can look at him over his 3-year career, 43.7% of snaps in the slot, 39.1% inline, and then 16.4% as a boundary receiver. So he was used all over the place. I liked the call out where you say, hey, if he makes it, I don't think he makes it to the Chargers, but that would be a fun one to just kind of get the Michigan guys back together. But this is another one where, depending on landing spot, we are going to be talking about Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren a lot after this draft.
Yeah, and it looks like the Colts. That's what you keep seeing. We know they've had major problems trying to get a tight end to be productive, and it looks like Loveland's going to be very successful in the NFL. I mean, it's close between him and Warren. I would take Warren 1, but Loveland is definitely close behind him. I mean, he's a great route runner. He's played in a pro-style scheme, so he's going to be highly coveted in fantasy as well. Although we mentioned it with the Colts, as much as they need a tight end, you need a quarterback that can throw you the football.
It's going to be Anthony Richardson, right? All our problems are going to magically disappear. And over the offseason, he's going to get way better as a passer, and everything will be fine. I can't even say with a straight face. Everything's going to be fine. 46.6% completion percentage. It's fine.
Yeah, really has to get better. You hope that maybe a tight end can help because they really haven't had one that they've utilized, but that's the concern there. If he does go to Indianapolis, it's the quarterback play.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. That's what I'm going to say every single day until it happens. It's going to be fine. Anthony Richardson's going to be great, and he's going to prove us all wrong. The other 2 tight ends really that I wanted to, maybe 3 depending on, but I will say that when you look at the tight end rankings from Thor Nystrom over here, he does have, and he's made some changes actually, because it used to be Harold Fannin Jr., so we can ask him about that here coming up, but it is Mason Taylor is his 3rd tight end out of LSU here. His comp for him is Hunter Henry. And so again, other names to know, that's probably going to be one. It's one of those things though that he has a ton of experience because he's been a 3-year starter, and he's good, like a good inline blocker for this class, but there's obviously a lot that he's going to continue to need to learn. And I feel like that's the same thing we can say with Terrence Ferguson and same with Harold Fannin Jr. So these are 3 guys, like Trevor was saying, hey, if one of these guys lands with the Denver Broncos, like it would still be fun, even if they have an Evan Ingram, to maybe, push Evan Ingram and see what they can do with both of them. But, those 3 are the ones in a tier below the Colston Lovelands, the Tyler Warrens, but still guys that you want to know about.
Yeah, and like you said, landing spot's going to be a big deal. Fannin, most of his production came in the slot. He dominated at college, but not a great athlete. Size is the issue for him.
Size, yeah.
Yeah, Mason Taylor, he has size. He's athletic. Blocking is a concern for him. So clearly they're a tier below, and they have some issues, and a lot comes down to what team they land on.
Yeah, I think Fannin, when Thor Nystrom talked to him at the Senior Bowl, he likes comparing his game to Isaiah Likely. So that's someone, if you're looking at the comp game, he likes that. Profiles just like Isaiah Likely.
And we like Likely in fantasy, especially when Mark Andrews isn't there.
That's not going to happen again, right? It was the car accident. It had to have been the car accident for that first set of the season.
Yeah,
not to just totally go on a tangent, but he was awful. I dropped him in a league.
A lot of people did with Andrews. Do it. Yeah, and then he came on strong. Remember, he was scoring touchdowns every week.
No, I remember.
Then the playoffs ended on a bad note, but forget about that.
We don't have to bring that up. We never have to bring that. I'm telling you though, Mark Andrews, people might still be a little bit sour on him. He gave you 3, 9, 0. He couldn't have played. He did not play in weeks 3 and 4, and then 9, and then it kind of got off 15.6, 20.1. But those first 5 weeks, again, I dropped him. I couldn't wait.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about that, and a lot of people did drop him, and that's one of those that you regret. But the production wasn't there. Sometimes you have to be a little patient, and that's always the key in fantasy, is trying to figure out when do you cut bait on a player. We can say it's a long season. It's not in fantasy, right? It's just not a long season. And when you have 3-4 weeks to start the year where you don't get much production, but Andrews is a guy that had a track record, you had to try and be patient, maybe plug someone else in until you saw his production come to fruition.
Yeah, it's a long season until you don't have a tight end, and then 5 weeks go by, and you're like, wait a second, I still don't have a really good tight end. I will say, it was in one of my more fun leagues, like a shallow league, so I just didn't really care that much. Not a ton of money on the line, but yeah, you're right. You see how quickly the year moves when you don't have a tight end in that starting spot. It's pretty brutal over there. So those are the tight ends that you definitely want to know, though. And again, you can go and check out all of Thor's rankings and the Thor 500, that big board, 500 player comps as well. He put so much time into it. So you can check out, Harold Fannin Jr., Terrence Ferguson, Mason Taylor, if you want to go take a look at fantasylife.com. Speaking of Thor Nystrom, though, we are going to be talking to him, breaking down that Thor 500 coming up here next. Okay, fantasy football fans, sure, NFL season may be long over, but next season's action is already well underway. We're talking big trades, new signings, draft order shuffles, you name it. And all this preseason NFL action is easier to enjoy with the official beer of the NFL. So make sure you go and get Bud Light delivered today and enjoy every season projection, every player trade, every coaching change and draft pick with the clean, crisp taste of Bud Light, the official beer of the NFL. Stock up now for the offseason and enjoy Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Adam, I'm ready to run through a brick wall. Between the Cam Scatterboo highlight and the music, I'm ready. Like, let's gear up. Let's get out there. What are we doing here? Let's go.
Yeah, I know how you feel about Cam, so you get fired up whenever we bring up his name.
I'm pumped. You know what? You know who else matches my energy when it comes to Cam Scatterboo is the one and only Thor Nystrom here coming into the show. Thor, welcome in. I know you're ready to run through a brick wall when you hear not only a Cam Scatterboo highlight, but that music. Like we're days away from the draft. Come on, how's it going?
You don't need coffee after you hear that one. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
I love it. And you know what? Since we're already talking about Cam Scatterboo, I guess Thor, but seriously, let me ask you, I'll leave it over, just an overarching question about the running backs, because we've talked with Trevor Sikkema now. He was here just a few minutes ago. But when we say this running back class is deep, like, I want to know how deep we're talking here and which running backs that you're looking at where you're saying, hey, people might not be talking about these guys this much, but maybe a couple running backs for you might make some noise in the NFL. Where does that start for you? And if it's Cam Scatterboo, that's fine too.
It's crazy deep. There's probably going to be 25 taken. And I think there's going to be 7, 8 beyond that are really interesting to NFL teams that could hang around for a long time. Speaking to the depth of it, but some sleepers that I like Taj Brooks from Texas Tech. It's a guy that probably going to go in the 6th round. They would have gone probably 2 rounds higher in last year's crappy running back class. So now the circumstances are against him, but he's a really good pass protector. He's really good between the tackles. There are some similarities there to Dameon Pierce from 3 years ago or so. He'd be a guy I'd point to. Brashard Smith, the receiving back from SMU, former Miami slot receiver, converted to running back at SMU, was awesome his first year there. He's the Tyrone Tracy of this class. But he's going to fall as well just because of the depth of it. Marcus Yarns would be the third name I'd toss out. Going even deeper, it's going to be a 6th or 7th round guy, undersized burner from Delaware. Also a very good receiving back, a guy who I think is going to hang around for a long time. But those are 3 guys I think you can get on big sticker price discounts in comparison to last year.
Nice.
You're really high on Caleb Johnson. What stands out about him?
He's fabulous in the zone running system. This past season, Iowa finally got rid of the nepotism, hired Brian Ferentz, an offensive coordinator, and hired a legitimate guy, the new offensive football, Tim Lester, the former Western Michigan head coach, who came from the Green Bay Packers staff most recently, and the full zone running system that they run with the Packers, that was Iowa's running system last year. So you got to see Caleb Johnson inside zone, mid zone, and then the stretch outside zone. And the latter one is where you get the explosive plays with Caleb Johnson, 225 pounds, and runs top speed at 22 miles an hour. Even though he ran the 4.57 at the combine, he had the same 22-hour max speed on the GPS data there that we saw at Iowa. And the reason that this is the quirk and why he needs the zone running system is he gets more open holes because of the way he runs that stretch zone, forcing the linebackers to declare their gaps before he runs through. He chooses his hole. Because of that, he gets more open holes. That is the runway that he needs to access his high-end speed. It was only 7th percentile 10-yard split. That's why he ran the slow 40 relatively, but the rest of the run after that, obviously when he gets to top speed after that runway, he has elite speed at 225 pounds. So Caleb Johnson, he gets into his own scheme. Like the Packers run, 49ers were on, Rams run. We have a grouping of teams that do that. If he finds one of those teams, Caleb Johnson will be a star in the NFL.
How much do you like, just staying with the running backs? And again, we're talking with Thor Nystrom here. The Thor 500 is live, so everyone wants to go and check that out because the player comps are amazing in the Thor 500. So just go over there at fantasylife.com. Travion Henderson, where does he fall for you in your rankings, and just how good could that Ohio State product be?
Travion Henderson, I have him RB4 and 51st overall on the board. I comp him to Reggie Bush. There's a lot of Reggie Bush there. It's another guy who runs angular, who is the sprinter. He gets into the sprinter stance. He got that crease, and then he hits the NOS button like Dominic Toretto. But Travion Henderson, a bit more aggressive than Reggie Bush, and this is the reason why probably he needs to have a platoon guy with him. Quinshon Judkins last year at Ohio State. Take away some of the meat and potatoes between the tackle work from Travion. It will help keep him healthy. Last year, he was healthy all 16 games during Ohio State's run to the title. It was the 2 years before that Travion got nicked up when they tried to make him a bell cow. He had been his true freshman season to 5-star recruit from Virginia, and he stayed healthy his freshman year, but the next 2 years wrecked by injuries. He needs to find a situation where with a team that has a between the tackle sort of a grinder guy, he'll do the rest for you. Travion's fabulous in pass protection as well. He's even a really good run blocker. I got a real kick out of his tape because Chip Kelly will do the fake it one direction, then have the quarterback go around the other way. They would constantly have Travion Henderson as the lead blocker, and he would destroy a linebacker, like an unsuspecting linebacker, just bull it out there and just take someone's head off.
You've obviously been working on this for a long time. Is there anyone that's maybe gone up significantly in your rankings over the last week, 2 weeks, as you analyze things, look at film and stats?
I can tell you one guy who's dropped is Isaiah Bond. I came into the process a little bit lower on him than others, and I've just continued to drop him throughout what has been a nightmarish process for Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver from Texas. Someone on the other end of that, Kyle Williams from Washington State, the wide receiver, sort of steadily climbed my rankings. And Kyle Williams, a guy I've been watching for 5 years. You go back to his time at UNLV, and he got on the field right away, even though he was a late convert to the wide receiver position in high school. I played some quarterback before that, but Kyle, his game grows on you the more that you watch him, and seeing him at the Senior Bowl, his release package was the best that we saw there. But knowing that, seeing that up close and personal, that he can play the boundary in the NFL. He's also really good at the route break. He lacks the measurables, but it's not disqualifying. He tested well enough that he's going to be able to hang on the boundary. Not going to be a star, but he should be a solid wide receiver 2 in the NFL.
Honestly, Thor, I've got the same question for you, because I know you and I, going through all the podcasts week in and week out, Jalen Milroe was someone that started off pretty well with you in your rankings, and then just has had this horrible pre-draft process where we're like, yikes, this might not go the way that we wanted. Now he's invited to the NFL draft. Is this actually someone, because we've got the rumors about Tyler Shuck being a first-round draft pick, so if he's in the mix, is Jalen Milroe still in the mix as someone that could maybe go to a team and make a little bit of noise, or not really for you?
Milroe is certainly more realistic than Tyler Shuck, and I've done a lot of thinking about this, because Jalen Milroe, that's one of the more shocking invites that we've had at the NFL draft in the last decade. I think at least I've identified who I believe is the mystery team in on him. In here, Charlie Day with the cork board back here. I think it's the Cleveland Browns. Okay. The Cleveland Browns, a team with an offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, that was Alabama's offensive coordinator in 2023 when Jalen Milroe looked like a future first overall pick. I think that would be the team in on him. They could trade up just a little bit from 33. Maybe Milroe gets to 33, but you can also trade back there, because the Browns have more picks than dang near anybody. They have just this enormous amount of draft equity. They could even trade up a couple spots just to give the 5th year to Milroe, like the Panthers did with Xavier Legette last year. They made that trade with Buffalo. So yeah, Milroe's going to go higher than people think, and absolutely is in play for the first round. It appears the NFL believes he will be a first rounder, having sent that invite to him.
People love player comps, and I can't believe you did for all 500. That's insane. What are some of your favorite ones?
Well, my favorite is getting deep in the weeds, because like the top 100 to 200 guys, everybody comps them, so you see a lot of commonalities. But once you get beyond that, it's Thor's frontier. No one comps those guys. So like I can, I go into the sandbox and some of these, like the quarterbacks and some of these guys that you see on TV over the years, I have my comp heading in for a lot of them, right? And so it's just kind of fun, and you're trying to do it where you're still it's people that or guys that the audience will remember, hopefully, but then you're trying not to be unrealistic with the career progression, right? So when you projected a guy's UDFA, you can't comp him to YA Tittle, or whatever. But for the college football sickos out there, they'll enjoy way down the board. Like just looking at my quarterback one down the board, I got like Brady Cook. I got him to Kevin Hogan. That's a Missouri quarterback. Shout out to producer Swing. Will Rogers, the quarterback for Washington, former Mississippi State guy. He played under Mike Leach. I comped him to Anthony Gordon. There's a whole bunch like down here. I got a Jake Browning comp way down here. But yeah, just getting in the weeds on the guys that I'm the only guy who's going to be comping them. Those are my favorite ones to do.
You missed out on righty Tebow, poor man's Tua. Those ones are good too.
Yeah, another one I like, and this one's in your close to your heart, Kendall, is Donovan Edwards. I comped him to skinny Kalen Ballage because Kalen Ballage is such a good athlete, and like all this, he's like, oh, he's good in the pass game too, and yada yada. And when I watched Kalen Ballage's tape, I comped him that process to Mr. Magoo. Because he was always running into the backs of his offensive linemen and missing holes. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he's got all the physical attributes he needs, but he does not have the vision. And that's Donovan Edwards, but he's just a skinnier version.
This is why I need Cam Scatteraboo to work out in the worst way.
That's our king.
It's been like N'Keal Harry and Kalen Ballage. I need something good in this Arizona State household to happen. But Thor, appreciate you so much as always stopping by. Everyone, again, fantasylife.com for all of those player comps and everything at the Thor 500. Thor, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Appreciate it. Talk to you then.
Awesome. There he goes. All right, we're going to continue on here, getting you ready for the NFL draft. We're going to go through some more mock draft mayhem, go through the latest mock draft from The Athletic. We're going to do that coming up next. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us today. Glad to be back with you on the weekdays. Adam, I've missed this. What, best friends? We only see each other on a Sunday now? Come on. This is awesome.
Back to 5 days a week. Well, 6 this week because we have Sunday as well. Nice and early, too. I'm a morning person, so it's great.
Yeah, that's true. I thought you were saying Sundays. I was like, Sunday's not early. You go out and play softball. You're fine.
Yeah, so now I'm waking up early all week. It's fine. I'll be great.
It's fine. Only for this week. This week, though, I did see some tweets about that. So it's only this week. Then we're, back on our Sundays. So come and hang out with us on Sundays as well. But we're going to continue on here going through some mock draft mayhem. We went yesterday through the mock draft that I did with Thor Nystrom and Emery as well. So we're going to continue on this one with The Athletic, who put out a mock draft. I think it was like a full seven round mock from Dane Brugler, who does incredible work. Adam, I can't even fathom a 7-round mock. I think this is his second one as well. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
No kidding. Maybe should we do that? Something like, no, we're too late now.
It's too late. You should have requested this weeks ago, and then we could have gotten it done.
I don't even think, could we do a 7-round mock in one show? There's no chance. There's no chance. It would take too long. All right, I'll remember that for next year for me, Adam, because I'm definitely not going to remember it. But in this mock draft, I want to start with some of the players that we could see going later, like round 2, round 3 picks here. So let's go over, this one. I just want to mention Jackson Dart to the Browns because it feels like no matter what, especially after we just talked with Thor, that the Browns are in some way going to come out of this draft with a quarterback, whether it be their first round pick or waiting, because like Thor said, they've got a lot of picks till that second round. They're going to walk out with someone. I liked the Jalen Milroe call out from him, though, to be honest.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the Browns, the Giants in early round 2, or maybe trading up late to first round. Because it doesn't fit. We know that the Browns are not taking a quarterback with their first pick. I mean, it's pretty much Travis Hunter. And then the Giants, I know there's been some talk that maybe, but that feels like they're just throwing that out there. So it feels like they're going to pass on quarterback and take one also early in round 2. So I think that's where you're going to see some of these quarterbacks go late first round, whether these teams trade or early round 2.
I did like the Luther Burden pick here from, again, this is we're reacting to the Athletics mock draft, 7 rounds from Dane Brugler, going to round 2, pick 3, going to the Tennessee Titans, because we talked a lot yesterday about Cam Ward and how he could be good, but really the supporting cast around him isn't amazing when you look at, Calvin Ridley. There's some pieces there, but it's not great. So then you get a Luther Burden who, like Trevor Sikkema said in the first segment, he's been falling down draft boards. And I am the same way, where I understand you could look at his usage and say, oh, he's a gadgety player, he's not going to work in the NFL. But it feels like if he falls to round 2, you're going to be getting a stud. And then he goes to the Titans and you get another weapon for Cam Ward. I like that one as well.
They need to get more weapons on offense. It's Calvin Ridley and nothing. You're being kind. There's just nothing else here. So they need another target, especially with Ward in his rookie season and questions on the offensive line. So, Burton is a player that some people are not high on. Others are very high on him, but certainly could be a force in the slot on the right team.
The last one I wanted to go through, just because we've talked about, and I remember us doing this, the Eagles and Dallas Goedert, a potential maybe trade candidate. He did have Harold Fannin Jr. going over to the Eagles, round 3, pick 96. I just think that's an interesting one to watch for, especially because we're getting all the rumors coming into this draft in the next couple of days. And he is still, I really do still think that could be a trade that we see happen for the Eagles.
It definitely feels like that's going to happen. Goddard has been good for them, but he's getting older, the money, so that it feels like they might want to go and get a young tight end here, which, again, in this offense, there's really not enough for a tight end, especially a rookie tight end.
Yeah, and Cam Scatteraboo, by the way, to the Chiefs. Love it. Sign me up. I've got every draft I've done, I've walked away with Cam Scatteraboo. I just have to let you know. That's going to be my most drafted. It's fine. Everyone knows Arizona State forks up here. We're going to the water cooler coming up next. You already know what time it is by now. Time for that Fantasy Life water cooler. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us today. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis, getting you ready for that NFL draft. Make sure you're giving us a follow at KValenzuela17, at Adam Ronis over there on Twitter, on X, and have to point you in the direction of fantasylife.com. You've got the Thor 500 that's there and live. You've got the rookie supermodel from Dwayne McFarland, and you've got all the best draft content that you could possibly find anywhere at fantasylife.com. Best bets, bold predictions, everything is right there, because Adam, we're just a couple days away. If you want to just get in on the action, you got to go check it out. It's good stuff.
It's valuable information. It'll get you caught up. Maybe if you haven't been paying close attention and now you're getting the buzz and the excitement, make sure you go to Fantasy Life, check it all out. There's so much content there. So we'll get you ready and prepared.
A 7-round mock coming from us? No. Not gonna do that. No, can't do it. Sorry. Go check out someone. It's not gonna be from Adam and I. We can tell you that. But it is time for that water cooler segment here. So just going through the news that we talked about here in the first hour and going through some of the notes that we have leading up until the NFL draft. Getting started, Adam. Green Bay. This is kind of random, but Green Bay expects 250,000 people to show up for this draft. So, side note, 2020 census showed 107,000 people live in Green Bay, and this week it's going to be more. I'm excited to see Green Bay host this draft.
Going to be interesting because we usually see it in these big cities, and I have never attended a draft. Have you?
I haven't. You know what? I was going to ask you the same thing. I haven't either, but I'm very interested. I would love to.
I think, one of these years, it would be fun to go, especially if your team has a high pick. Obviously, you don't want that because that means they had a bad season. But especially, being there in person. I don't know. I mean, I guess at some point you could do it, although with these long delays between picks. But I guess it's just the environment, being around other fans, the excitement. It's just an event. So, I have never been to any type of draft. So maybe one of these years.
One of these years. Green Bay would have been fun. Any draft, to be honest. I would love to go, but it feels like the same thing that you and I talk about, where when we talk about going to actual NFL games, where it's just like you miss a little bit. But there's long breaks. You're standing for a long time at the draft. I don't know. Are there chairs? I'm a sit down person.
Yeah, I've
be
noticed.
Comfortable.
I'm sure though, if they had like a cotton candy burrito, that would definitely get you to go there a little bit more quicker.
Oh, 1,000%. Oh my gosh. Should we Google the food at the NFL draft? People are going to be like, what are we doing?
See, now that is a time that I
That'd
actually
be
would
incredible.
probably wait online with the 15 minutes between picks. You know, once my team picks, then I'm like, all right, now I can go get something to eat.
I don't know, but once you get in a good spot at the draft, you won't want to leave. Like I've seen I mean, it's just thousands upon thousands of people. So you won't even be able to see anything if you leave. That's what I'm saying. If you get a chair though, if you get a chair and then you can just get up, get down. I don't know.
Well, especially now that they've had them outdoors.
Yeah, is it going to be cold there? Okay, if anyone's going, let us know. At K Valenzuela. Now I have too many questions. At K Valenzuela 17, at Adam Ronis, send us your pictures.
I think I saw that there might be rain in the forecast.
Okay, I obviously haven't done enough research. Is it inside the stadium? No,
I don't
it's
think
outside,
so.
right?
Yeah, it's outside, I think.
Huh. I'm going to look up the food and I'll figure it out. Next year, it's, where is it? Pittsburgh next year. 2026 Pittsburgh. Should we go?
I've always wanted to go to PNC Park, so go to the draft, catch a Pirates game.
Okay.
I'm in.
Okay, yeah, bring baseball into it. Well, I always ask you to go to these things, and then it never I've asked you to eat the cotton candy burrito with the Arizona Cardinals. I asked, I said, hey, you should go to the Mets, and you should get the cookie bucket. It's never happened. I
say yes, and then you don't follow through. So that's on you.
You never said yes to Arizona.
I'm willing. I love to travel. I'm willing to go anywhere. I want to see different stadiums, so I'm willing to travel. So it's on you at this point.
I'm doing again, super random, Scott Fishbowl in Las Vegas this year, and I'm taking that Raiders tour.
Oh, I did it of Allegiant Stadium. Yeah, that was
Allegiant
great.
Stadium.
That's an unbelievable stadium.
And then my mom said the same thing. So I'm going there in June, and I'm gonna take that tour because it looks incredible. And that's just something that I don't ever think of doing when I'm in different cities to go tour their stadiums, especially for those NFL stadiums. But that one looks really cool.
It is. It's got to be. I haven't done it many other stadiums, but I go to a lot of games at MetLife Stadium. Let me tell you, it's not great. That's a tour I probably wouldn't want to do. I don't know how they spend that much money on that stadium, but yeah, Vegas for the Raiders, that was unbelievable.
Okay. All right. It's on my list. Anyway, don't know how we got here, but the 250,000 expected for the draft over there in Green Bay. And yeah, if you're going, we would love to see your photos. I just love too that, just the fans that show up there, especially the ones that get really close to the stage. I don't know how you get there, but they're all dressed up. Like I said, you're excited until your team does something dumb, like the Cowboys not drafting a running back last year, and then you get sad, but it's okay. For those
thanks
few
for
moments,
the reminder. I appreciate it.
Those few moments, you're really happy about it.
Yeah, right. And I think this year too, there's a lot of drama too this year. Like I think it's going to be wild. There's going to be a lot of unexpected things. It feels like up top we kind of know what's going to happen, but after that, I think it's going to be a wild draft.
I agree now. I agree more now that we're a couple days away than I did. If you asked me a month ago, I'd say, no, it might be pretty low key. But I just think the really important thing to know about this draft is that, and this is not a knock on any of these guys, they're going good amount of these guys are going to be really good in the NFL, but it's the conversation that I always point back to yesterday that we had with Connor Rogers, where he said there's not a lot of blue chip talent here. So at the top, you already see, he said maybe the first 4 or 5 guys are really good. But last year we were talking about how, you could name 10 names off the top and those guys were just so talented. So that's why I agree more now with you, Adam, saying someone might come up into the top 10 because they just don't think that their guy's going to be there anymore. And if they want to reach for a Tetairoa McMillan, a Tyler Warren, an Ashton Genty, I am now believing that Ashton Genty, someone's going to trade into that top 5 spot with Jacksonville and take Ashton Genty there. That's the one rumor that I'm going to believe.
It could. I mean, you're starting to hear now Jacksonville saying that they're interested, and it could be to get people to trade up. But also when you don't have those top elite players, you have teams that have different valuations, different boards. They might, one team has a quarterback 1, another team has them 6. So that's what makes it so interesting and why I do think we're going to see some big surprises in the first round.
That 5 spot's going to be important. And I still think, Carolina over there at 8, I think Carolina could take some calls with the 8th overall pick because they're not one, hey, we need to just fix this one position and we're good to go. They have so many needs in this draft where they could get a haul of picks and say, all right, we'd rather move back from this 8 spot and just try and fix a few more holes than trying to get someone at 8. But yeah, that 5 spot, there's a lot. It's going to be good. It won't be the Seattle Seahawks or the Cowboys, but that's fine. We just have to accept that.
Yeah, and things keep changing in the betting market too. So really? That, it's going to be wild.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. All right. Continuing on here again, fantasylife.com to go and check out everything for this NFL draft. I did want to mention the Green Bay Packers, just to stick in Green Bay, because Jordan Love, I saw this quote from Jordan Love saying that he wants to make more off-schedule plays in 2025, but he did bring up his injury from last season. So the quote that he was telling Rich Eisen was, quote, "For me personally, I was dealing with an injury last year, but I think a big part of my game that I was missing was being able to get on the move, scramble a little bit more, take off and run, and sometimes just extend plays." So this is one where, again, Jordan Love, for what it's worth, he was injured last season. We've talked about the supporting cast around him as well, and how that's another team, Adam, that they need to get better for Jordan Love to be able to find success in 2025. Like, you look at this depth chart, and it is one where Christian Watson's probably not going to come back next season. You've got Tucker Kraft, who did have some big enough games, and then Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. I could again see them probably not first round, but I do like hearing that from Jordan Love, just saying, hey, I was injured to start the year, but just knowing that that's maybe in the playbook for 2025 does make me a little bit excited.
Yeah, I remember Jordan Love, that Thursday night game in Brazil where he hurt his knee, and it looked bad because I did a draft, I think the next night or 2 days later, and I was sitting there, I'm like, when do I take Love? And I think he wound up going in round 19, but at that point, it looked bad. And he came back in week 4. And I think I was surprised by that. And he did say that he came back too early. And that's always the risk with these injuries. And it's going to have an impact on you. And you could see it too in the stats with, he's not a guy that's going to run a lot, but he ran 50 times for 247 yards in 2023. Last year, 25 carries for 83 yards. So he just didn't move as much. So it seems there's truth into what he was saying. And yeah, it was a disappointing offense. They just ran the ball so much too. Obviously, if you had Josh Jacobs, you loved it because well over 300 carries. But yeah, it wasn't as good of a season for Jordan Love. He just didn't take that big step forward.
But when you have Josh Jacobs when you have your running back come out and say, we need more receivers, that's when that's when you have to step back and say, okay, there's something going on here where they do need it. And you're right, for all Josh Jacobs managers, you were, oh my gosh, first of all, I was jealous, but you were so damn excited for what he was able to give you. But it goes back into that conversation of how many carries did he have last season, and is he going to be able to do that again if they use him in that same way in 2025? So wide receivers especially, I mean, Dontavian Wicks, that could be someone that you look at here, but no group of wide receivers had more total drops. I always bring this up. No group of wide receivers had more total drops than the Packers, and their drop rate was 8.4%, which also led the league. 25 drops, 8.4% drop rate. That's bad.
Yeah, we've talked about it for a long time. Every year it seems like the Packers need a wide receiver and they never draft one. So we'll see if that changes this year. Because right now, when you look at this team at that position for fantasy, like no one's going to go in the top 40.
No. Who was the last? Was it Christian Watson? Watson was their last earliest draft pick, right, for receiver? Third round?
Yeah, they definitely have not taken a first rounder. I don't even think a second rounder in a long time.
Well, the first round draft picks, I believe, is 2002. They haven't had a first round wide receiver since 2002. So that it's probably not going to be this season, especially in a year where we say this wide receiver class isn't as good. But the Packers need need some real investments in here to get the most that they can out of Jordan Love. QB 16 though, I'm going to be honest, Adam, I don't think I'm out on Jordan Love in drafts this year though. Like that could be one where you say, hey, it's a big discount and there's a reason why, because of the season that he had last year and just the heights that he wasn't able to live up to. But if you're telling me that after him is Tua Tagovailoa, Michael Penix, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, I'm going to be having some serious thoughts about drafting Jordan Love.
Well, yeah, you're going to get him as a QB2, so I'm assuming you have someone else and you like to take a second quarterback. So you're just basically attributing last year to him playing through injury. You think that was the biggest factor?
Yeah. Don't you?
I mean, I think that's partially you can attribute to that. The other thing, too, the pass attempts were way down. Again, they had such success on the ground. Well, that's the way they wanted to play. But we saw him go from 579 pass attempts in 17 games to 425 in 15 games. Crazy. It's really difficult. Unless you're a quarterback that runs a lot, like a Lamar Jackson, it's very difficult to have success when your pass attempts are so low.
But I also think on the other side of that's going to go up, and that means that you're not going to have as many attempts from Josh Jacobs, right? Would you say, like, because those correlate? They used him a lot last season, and so I'm not saying that doesn't mean that he's going to be injured or anything else like that. I'm just saying if they actually do, not necessarily a first round wide receiver, but if Jordan Love is fully healthy coming into it, which he should be, he says like, hey, my leg is a little bit better, I trust myself a little bit more, and they get a little bit more help. It all hinges on them getting him more help, but that's where I think you could see it level off, where less Josh Jacobs usage, a little bit more on Jordan Love, and it evens out.
Yeah, and you look at Jacobs in 2022, he had 340 carries that year, 53 receptions, and the next year wasn't completely healthy, only played in 13 games, and the carries went down to 233. So anytime you see that running back have that massive workload, you are always a little concerned about the following season. It's one of the reasons that last year I had pointed out about Christian McCaffrey, why I didn't like him as the #1 pick, because you looked at his history when he had that season with a lot of touches with Carolina. The next year, he didn't play much. So it's always something to keep an eye on when these running backs are coming off these massive workloads. It's very difficult to follow up with a season that's similar. You're more than likely going to miss some games.
What did you say he had for 2022?
He had 340 carries and 53 receptions.
That's
so you're talking
Saquon 2024 level.
393 total touches.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
And then you see the drop off the next year where you miss 4 games and you're not as healthy. And 3.5, he went from 4.9 yards per carry to 3.5.
Listen, and we're not in the business of saying that, hey, these guys are going to get hurt, but just seeing off the top, like Saquon, Derrick Henry, Bijan, JT, Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs, Kyren Williams, those guys and their workload, that was just, it was kind of nuts for last season. And it was more nuts that they were healthy almost the whole time. That's the even crazier part. So I might be back in on Jordan Love there. So just wanted to throw that one out there. Since we're talking about quarterbacks, let me just say this one for Jaden Daniels. Saw this other quote that, of course, we're going to love this. He said, "It's a whole new year. I have to prove myself again." But there's a lot of these players coming into the NFL draft. We can talk about guys that we want to see maybe the Commanders go and get. They did get another weapon for Jaden Daniels in Deebo Samuel, who was not good last year and who I had a lot of, so that was unfortunate. But they're trying over there, and a Cliff Kingsbury offense where Cliff was asked to do some head coach interviews and he declined. He said, "No, I want to stay with the Washington Commanders." I mean, Jaden Daniels was 1 of 1 last year. That's just going to be someone again where we'll see what they do in the draft to get a little bit better. But the season that he had, the rookie season, I mean, it puts him. He's inside the top 3. Top 4, right? Fantasy quarterbacks.
Yeah, top 3, top 4.
3.
Some people might be concerned because the adjustment the second year, but he seems like a guy that's going to be fine. You always worry about that. You saw it with C.J. Stroud. There were other issues that probably contributed to that, but Daniels, again, the ability to run. We just talk about it all the time with these quarterbacks. If you have a quarterback that's going to run like a Jaden Daniels, it just gives you a high floor for fantasy. And yeah, last year, he was going QB9, QB10.
Oh, yeah, he was late. But everyone, at least
everyone was on him.
At Fantasy Life, it felt like we just said, hey, he's going too late. It should never be like this it always is a little bit confusing, going that late. And it's just, some people just don't think that rookies are going to be able to perform up to that level. But that's why we always talk about the ones with the rushing upside. We say, listen, as bad as you want to think that they could be, like a Kyler Murray, they're always going to be inside that top 10 and probably should have been earlier just because that's what they give you. And the ceiling is just so good.
Yeah, I just look at the top quarterbacks that are going to be selected in fantasy drafts this year. Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. What is the common theme? They're all going to put up big rushing numbers. So in the past, you were able to get those guys cheap, but obviously over the years, people getting sharp, and now you got to pay the price for them.
Josh Allen, durable.
He
I had someone tweet me that the other day after our Sunday show where we
talked about that, right?
Yeah, we went on a tangent. We said quarterback injuries, and we said Josh Allen is and Patrick Mahomes has been pretty good. But someone tweeted that at me. Josh Allen, durable. That's it. I said yes.
It helps when you're 6'5", 240, right?
Listen,
but
it doesn't hurt.
It is amazing though for a guy because he basically carries the ball more than 100 times every single year, and for him to stay as healthy as he has is pretty amazing.
Knock on wood. It's going to be fine, everyone. We've already talked about this. We're blaming Adam if
Bills
anything
fans
happens.
are going to blame us. Week 2, Josh Allen's banged up.
For sure. Where they're gonna, and you know what? I would take that. I'd say, yeah, we probably should have stopped talking about that. But durable nonetheless. All right. The last one here that I just wanted to mention was the Denver Broncos and their wide receiver Courtland Sutton are optimistic about their contract talks. Don't necessarily, Adam, want to get into the weeds on like what this new contract could be for Courtland Sutton. But he is entering that final season of a 4-year, $60.1 million extension. He signed that back in November 2021. And I'm just curious for you, if you do think that they're going to add a little bit more to this receiver room for Bo Nix. I mean, for everything fantasy-wise, Bo Nix was phenomenal last season. He was someone that could have been on waivers for people to go and pick up. In those deeper leagues, he wasn't, but he showcased a lot for that Denver Broncos team. And it felt like there was a lot of meat left on the bone. And it almost, to me, felt like when you were looking at those receivers besides Courtland Sutton, there wasn't anyone really stepping up. Same with the running backs. They got Evan Ingram at tight end, but it feels like maybe that could be a position that they look at in the draft way later on down the line, but maybe something that they address.
Could be. I mean, obviously running back is a major need. Maybe, I know they brought in Evan Ingram, but maybe another tight end, defensive line, but forgot about my guy Marvin Mims last year. I mean, I was cashing his props late in the year.
I was going to say everyone forgot about Marvin Mims.
And then he just came onto the scene late in the year and was making big play after big play.
You're making me cry laugh because I'm like, everyone. Listen, okay, 880 receiving yards? That's not bad.
For who?
No, 503. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but no, he had 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games.
Yeah,
he had
fair enough.
2 100-yard games in the last 5, but yeah, I was just making a lot of money on his props. They would set it like in the 20s, like 24 and a half, and it was just like, all right, easy money. Even
but
in
were
the
you setting him in your lineups? No.
There might have been one league, like a deeper league where I was, but yeah, it took some time because we've kind of been teased by Marvin Mims for a long time. We've been waiting. I mean, it's only been 2 years, but it feels longer.
Well, the one that was, he was supposed to explode 2 years ago. And then it almost felt like he was kind of in the doghouse a little bit. I don't know what.
He was early in the year. He wasn't playing many snaps.
And I don't remember what that ended up being about because then you had, last season, which got better. But then you only had, you've got Devon Vele and then you've got Troy Franklin. I could see them maybe add a little bit of depth there. But Courtland Sutton quietly, maybe not so quietly because I know we talked about it during, but he had a great fantasy season last year.
He did, and he wasn't really highly coveted either. People weren't really interested in him, and I guess part of it might have been they didn't know what to expect from Bo Nix, but he had a 1,000-yard year, 81 catches, 8 touchdowns. He's got 18 touchdowns the last 2 years.
Wow. That's impressive. So we'll see. We'll just see when that new contract hits and what they do in this year's draft. But yeah, you're right. Running back for the Denver Broncos, we know that could be another team that goes up to get Ashton Genty and then maybe another tight end there as well is what you can look at there. All right, that was the Fantasy Life Watercooler, fantasylife.com to go and subscribe to that newsletter and check out all of those NFL draft articles that we have for you. Draft is just a couple days away, so we are getting ready for it. We're going to continue on with a little quarterback preview. We are going to discuss Cam Ward a little bit more, talk about Jalen Milroe, where Shedeur Sanders could have the best fantasy landing spot. We're going to do all that coming up next. Draft edition is right here. Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Excited to have everyone with us. The countdown is coming closer and closer, Adam. We're talking through some quarterback previews. We talked through some of the tight ends at the top of the hour, so make sure you guys go back and check that out if you missed it. But do need to talk through some of these quarterbacks. And I know people say, this isn't a great quarterback draft class. It's not like we've seen in years past, and that's going to be true. But still, it's exciting. Like Cam Ward, the Tennessee Titans kind of bring in, which we're going to expect that the Tennessee Titans do take Cam Ward. What are the betting odds for that? I think I saw it at minus 20,000 the other day.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous. It's basically
just like the worst
lock.
It's like the worst kept secret. Could you imagine though if they didn't? If they said, you know what?
Yeah,
we decided to change our mind.
That would be a massive
crazy
surprise, and hopefully people didn't make that bet at minus 20,000 because
please don't do that.
Yeah, you never bet anything like at those odds. It's not worth it.
Adam's betting 101. Don't send us a screenshot of that because
you see people. I've seen like some ridiculous odds and people putting money on. I'm like, come on.
What?
Yeah.
Why? Maybe they
people
just
are
don't
not
know.
smart. Or
Yeah,
maybe they're
okay.
trolling and they really did do it.
Maybe that one.
I
So if
hope.
anyone wants to troll Adam Ronis here, 10 cents, like Amanda's scared money don't make money. Maybe 10
Yeah,
cents
I mean, she
on
really
Cam
goes
Ward.
out on a limb there.
We need to get her on to just see what she likes for this draft. But okay, anyway, Cam Ward, expectations in Tennessee. If it's anything like the mock draft that Dane Brugler had, and we talked about that just a couple segments ago, like if they really do add a Luther Burden to this offense, like it does get better. Cam Ward just seems like someone though that, because he's not an elite athlete, but he consistently finds ways to do really good things, and that's what you're going to see when you put the film on for him in college. Like he was really good, and he's had a long path from getting over there to Miami. He went from Washington State, Incarnate Word. Like it was a lot, and it was a really good journey for him, but he is just it's going to be a learning curve, like we always see with most of these NFL quarterbacks, especially the ones, Adam, that go to a team that aren't necessarily just stacked with talent for him to succeed with. So it's going to be a little bit of a waiting game, but I am excited to see what he is able to do over there in Tennessee. And, sorry to your guy, Will Levis, but that was pretty bad.
Don't say he's my guy. I mean, geez.
He was your guy. What are you talking about? You
in a
claimed
super
him.
flex league as a QB2, take a shot. It didn't work out. I was wrong on that one.
No,
okay?
but you went along with your guy until he was bad.
Well, I mean, come on. It didn't work out. We had to move on.
It was the mayo scented coffee perfume
cologne? No,
or whatever.
wasn't it cologne? Yeah.
I don't know.
Which
I tried
you
to
never
get
got.
you one. I tried to get Adam. People are nuts. It was sold out every single day. They restocked it at 9 a.m. Pacific time. I went on there and it was never available. So I'm sorry.
Well, at least
Next
that
time
fared better than his jersey sales. But
I could get you a jersey.
But Ward in
$5
Tennessee, look, the problem is just the talent around him. There's just not much. The offensive line is a concern. You only have Calvin Ridley, so that's the biggest thing. And there are definitely some concerns about him with the turnovers. We know he's got a big arm. That's great.
Yes.
A lot of quarterbacks do, and he does have the experience. 57 starts in college football, so you have that. But yeah, it's going to take some time. And right now, with what Tennessee has, it just doesn't make them very appealing for fantasy.
Yeah, it's gonna take a little bit. It's gonna take a little while, but we kind of already know that. Like his decision making, sometimes when you look at those Miami games, kind of put him in a bad spot. But overall, he's got the big arm. He completed 67.2% of his throws, ran for four touchdowns, I believe, in 2024 as well. So there are traits there that we like. So he's going to be an innovator when you compare him to this year's quarterback class. But yeah, he's maybe cautiously QB2 with upside if landing in the right situation, which to us, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the Titans. It feels like it's the same conversation with Shedeur Sanders. Depending on where he goes, he's just been, I said this yesterday, Adam, it feels like you either have to love Shedeur Sanders or hate him. You can't just like him. And I'm going to be right in the middle, where I do believe that Shedeur Sanders can be a successful NFL story, but right now I just like him. I'm not going up to bat and saying that he is just going to be the best quarterback of 2025. He's going to end up being QB1, but I do like him and the traits that he possesses for a potential NFL team.
He definitely is on the extreme where people love him, think he's QB1 or QB2 in this class. Others think no chance. So, and then it's wild with him because the betting market with him is very close as well. So the last I saw, the Saints were plus 240, the Browns were plus 250, the Steelers were plus 260, and the Giants plus 330. So that's really close where people just don't know. At this point, it felt like with the Carr injury, okay, the Saints will take him at 9, but I'm beginning to think that's not going to happen. It doesn't feel like it. And if they didn't feel Sanders was top 10 before the Carr injury, I don't see why that would change now. So it's really, it's Steelers. We know they have to take a quarterback here, right? They only have Mason Rudolph. We have no idea what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. He doesn't even know. So they have to take a quarterback. So could it be them at 21? And then we've heard other reports that the Browns maybe get him, whether it's late first round if he slips or early round 2. So Sanders is definitely going to be the wild card in this draft.
And it just feels like there's no one's just sitting here saying like he is absolutely going to this team with this pick. It's just feels like it's very up in the air. I agree that maybe with the Carr injury that they say, hey, we have to go out and get him. It just feels like now, whereas a few months ago we were saying he's probably a top 10 draft pick. It feels now more than likely that he will fall past that. But again, I wouldn't be surprised, right? If it's one of these teams that goes up there and they say, hey, we actually don't want to pass up on him. I don't know what it's going to be. I will say, I can give some stats for him too. Like last season, he had an 81.8% adjusted accuracy percentage, which was, and Thor Nystrom has said this before, 5 points ahead of Cam Ward at 76.3%. So ranked number 2 among FBS quarterbacks. That was per PFF. So we know he's good at avoiding those negative plays. But when you talk about, arm talent and strength there, it's below average is where he sits at. So he does have some bad tendencies that I do think in the NFL you can fix with the right team. And just overall, I do like him. I do think that he could be successful in the NFL, but we're just going to have to sit back and wait to see what team that could be with. What would be the best team for you? Because I'm thinking best case scenario for him to just be able to showcase all those strengths and be good in the NFL would be the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, Cleveland or Pittsburgh. It doesn't. The Saints, I don't think are taking him. And then even Adam Schefter in his reporting was saying that the Saints really like Jackson Dart. So they're probably not going to take him there at 9, probably later. But that's what he was speculating.
It's just all confusing. And then Tyler Shuck's now a first-round draft pick. I don't know. Jackson Dart, we can break down Jackson Dart right here. The question that was posed was, is he this year's Bo Nix? I don't know. There's a lot of concern with him. Like the pressure to sack rate with Jackson Dart is one of those things that I talked through with Thor. He took a sack on 18.6% of his pressure dropbacks last season, which was the 3rd worst mark among these top 10 quarterbacks here. So it was not necessarily great. He does have the tools, Adam. I should say that. He does have the tools and the statistical profile to be good in the NFL. Whether that does translate over to the NFL, I don't know, because the system that he played at Ole Miss as well is one of those big question marks where you don't really know if he's going to be successful just because of that program. He's going to have to really learn an NFL playbook and pretty quickly, and he's going to have to develop his game a lot more. So I think there's a lot more that he's going to have to learn in the NFL than a Shedeur Sanders or than a Cam Ward. But I guess it could be there.
Yeah, it's possible. I think with the right team, and there are some people that have him as the number 1 quarterback on their board. That's this quarterback class. It's all over the place. It really depends on, your evaluation, but it definitely seems like the Saints are pretty high on him.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's the same thing with Tyler Shuck. I don't know. What's going on here? He's older too. Isn't he like 26?
Yeah,
he's going to be 26.
26, yeah.
I don't know. This is how, I don't want to say bad, but when we compare him to quarterback classes before, it seems it's all up in the air. It's Cam Ward going 1, and then everything else is a question mark.
Yeah, look, and all it takes is one team to be really high on one of these quarterbacks where they say, yep, we like him better than the consensus, and we're going to move up to get him. And, we saw last year, Michael Penix, right? No one thought that was happening, and then he goes to Atlanta. So it feels like we might get one of those surprises. Not top 10, but, late first, early second round.
Yeah, and Chuck, to give him some credit, he is coming off a strong final season, 88.5 PFF grade over there at Louisville. So he's just a little bit older, and
injuries have been a big problem
injuries.
For
he
him.
Didn't break through till his 7th season as well.
Sometimes you have to be patient, Kendall.
Listen, I've been patient. I was patient with Deebo Samuel last year. I was patient with Jalen Waddle. I'm done being patient, Adam. I need success right away.
Instant results.
Instant results. That's what we're going to get with Cam Scatterbo. Instant results from Cam. That's what I'll hope for. We're going to continue on here. Our favorite fantasy landing spots. We've talked about this for the last couple weeks. We're giving our final thoughts, though, on our favorite landing spots for a couple teams. We're going to do that coming up next. All right, fantasy football fans. Sure, the NFL season may be long over, but next season's action is already well underway. We're talking big trades, new signings, draft order shuffles, you name it. And all this preseason NFL action is easier to enjoy with the official beer of the NFL. So you're going to want to go out and get Bud Light delivered today and enjoy every season projection, every player trade, every coaching change, and draft pick with the clean, crisp taste of Bud Light, the official beer of the NFL. Stock up now for the offseason and enjoy Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Back to fantasy life right here indeed. Kendall Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you at KValenzuela17, at Adam Ronis over there on Twitter, on X, getting you ready for the NFL draft in just a few days here. And excited to be doing it with you guys. FantasyLife.com, that's where you can go and check out that Thor 500, the rookie supermodel from Dwayne McFarland. If you're just, if you're just getting into the NFL draft talk, that's okay. That's why we're here to help along the way. And we've got some players that we like, Adam. We've got some favorite landing spots, but like we've said for the past, few weeks, anything can happen. So we could have favorite landing spots and they could blow up in our face. It's fine.
Yeah, we hope not, but that's what also makes the draft so exciting, right? We're sitting there in anticipation on draft night. We think we know what's going to happen, and then it's a surprise. But as long as it helps our fantasy teams, dynasty, redraft, best ball, that's what we want. So let's hope it transpires that way.
Denver Broncos for you. We know it's running back for us in fantasy football land. We figure, what are the odds at? Do you still have those betting odds up do you have the betting odds up? And if you do, can you check out the Denver Broncos and where they're at? Because they should be that should be a favorite for them to draft a running back. It's just a question of if they maybe trade up, because at 20, they're going to hope that, Ashton Jeanty isn't going to be there at 20. So they're one of those teams that I think is in the mix. And we've heard rumblings about this for the past couple of days. I think they're in the mix to go ahead and trade up and be one of those teams that calls Jacksonville, that calls Las Vegas, and gives them a haul of picks to go out and get Ashton Jeanty. That's definitely a team that I could see do that in the Denver Broncos. If not, I do think an Omarion Hampton, if there isn't this big running back run and you don't have Chicago taking someone, if Dallas decides to pass at 12 because Genty's not there and they say we're going to go and just wait on running back, Omarion Hampton is the second best running back in this class. But I think it's by most metrics when you look at everyone and where they have their running back rankings. So Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina is just this complete player. He's reliable on passing downs. He is going to be this starter as a rookie. And if they can't get Ashton Jeanty, I do like Omarion Hampton in this spot.
I can tell you this. The odds are the Broncos are likely to take a running back because
what's it at?
Depending on the book, it's anywhere from -105 to -136. So it's pretty clear. And I agree with you. Hampton would be the perfect fit. They have not had a 100-yard rusher in the 2 years under Sean Payton. So that's got to change. They need a 3-down back. Hampton's very powerful. He runs with reckless abandon. So he's good between the tackles, and he's also a good receiver out of the backfield. So that would be a great fit. And we all know Denver is more than likely taking a running back with that pick.
Yeah. And again, with reliable on those passing downs, that's something that we also like in fantasy football. What do you think for your Cowboys? Not to continue bringing them up, but they are one of those teams. It's them. It's the Chicago Bears. Like, it feels if Jeanty isn't there, which he's just at this point not going to be at 12, I could see them going a different direction than taking a running back and just kind of waiting and maybe going with a receiver, maybe a Tet McMillan right there.
Yeah, I don't see running back. It would have to be Jeanty falling, and I don't see that happening. And the odds for them, the Cowboys, it is wide receiver with the first pick, anywhere from -125 to -165. Next would be offensive line, and then next is cornerback. So running back is fifth for them. So
interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be in the first round. It would have to be Jeanty, and I just don't see him falling to the Cowboys at 12.
I saw this in a couple of mock drafts, but when we look at, speaking of wide receivers, when we look at the Houston Texans, I'm curious what they're at right now. It's probably my mind thinking, what's the best fantasy football play here? But I don't hate an Emeka Egbuka going over there because, again, we've talked about CJ Stroud and kind of, just having a lackluster 2024 season. Then you have Stephon Diggs go out the door as well. So I think for the Texans, maybe it's not, at the top of their list for the Texans going into this NFL draft, but looking at just kind of their depth chart, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk is an interesting conversation to have. have. Tank Dell unfortunately went down with another injury because he just can't catch a break, which is so unfortunate because we love Tank Dell. And then you get into the John Mechie's, the Justin Watsons of the world for the Texans. So again, maybe Adam not off the top, maybe not in the first round, but that's a position that they do need a bit of help at.
Yes, and they also need lots of help on the offensive line after C.J. Stroud took a beating last year, and that's the favorite offensive line, anywhere from -220 to -285. But wide receiver is second, but those odds range from +200 to +425. So more than likely offensive lineman. But at some point, I think during this draft, they probably grab a receiver.
I'm looking at where else they pick at, because of course I don't have that in front of me right now, but it should be, they have the, what is that? The 26th pick in round 2. That could be a good spot.
Yeah,
they've got 2 picks in round 3.
58 overall in the second round, and they got 2 in round 3, a 5th, and 2 in the 7th. So
okay.
They definitely need help on the offensive line. I mean, they've got to do it. Of course, again, receiver is important too, but they've made massive changes on the offensive line, losing a few guys already, and Stroud was beaten up last year.
Gosh, when I look at their PFF grades, 29th ranked, their offensive line ranked 29th according to PFF, and just, oh my gosh, it was not good across the board for any of their rankings between any of them. I actually can't even say a nice thing about them. So it's just all bad there. So I do see them going that direction, but eventually, and Emeka Egbuka is a fun wide receiver. He's one that you guys are going to hear about a lot in the next coming days, because he's someone that's towards the top of the wide receiver rankings. When you look at it, it's really Tedderell McMillan, Matthew Golden, Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka kind of rounds out that top 4. Jalen Noel, if you really want to get in the weeds, same with Jaden Higgins. So you could see that he could find success in the NFL. And I don't, just Texans need wide receiver help. A lot of teams need receiver help. I could also see him, if the Panthers do trade back, maybe they use one of those picks that they get in the haul and go get him. But yeah, he's going to be good.
Yeah, I see him probably late first, early second round is more than likely where he goes.
Yeah. All right. I like that. All right. Again, fantasylife.com. That's where you can go check out some of these landing spots that we've been talking about and just breakdowns on all of these players. Fantasylife.com, 100% free. Going to continue on here, Adam, and we've got some bold predictions from Gene Clemens, from Thor Nystrom. We're going to react to some of them, see how much we think this could actually happen. We're going to do that coming up next. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. It's been fun being back with you on the weekdays. Again, we still have our Sunday shows going on. Say that 5 times fast. So make sure you hang out with us continuing on this off season. But what do you think about it, Adam? We're going through bold predictions, and there's an article live at fantasylife.com for bold predictions for 2025. The first one being from Thor Nystrom. The Browns will draft Travis Hunter at 2 overall, and either Shedeur Sanders or Jalen Milroe with their second draft pick. I think it's spicy if you just say Shedeur Sanders with their second draft pick, because that means that they would, and he's mentioned this before, that means that they would have to come back into the first round probably to go and get him. But that would be a spicy, bold prediction.
For sure. And maybe they're fortunate that they don't have to trade to the end of the first round and he falls. Obviously one of them will be there. Sanders, we'll see. Maybe he's gone, but Milroe was talked highly by their general manager, Andrew Berry. So that is interesting, just because we know they need a quarterback, and it looks like they're not going to take 1 at 2. It's going to be Travis Hunter. We understand that. It makes sense, but they certainly need a quarterback badly.
What about, have you been keeping an eye on any players that we could see traded? I don't have that in this bold prediction article yet. There will be eventually, I'm thinking. But like George Pickens, I've seen his name come up a couple of times these last couple of days. He still feels like that could be someone that's maybe on the trade block. We've talked about Breece Hall because it's a 1, 2, 3 punch. And that's a quote, by the way. That's not us saying that, Adam. They have said 1, 2, 3 punch in that backfield for the Jets, which is unfortunate for us in fantasy football. But him or James Cook, maybe those guys could be on the move.
Yeah, Cook's a name I've seen. Tyreek Hill, that's another name.
Tyreek Hill, I keep forgetting him. That's been weird, but there's always drama with them and Tyreek Hill. It's just, What did he do at the end of the season? It was the postseason press conference or something where he said he's out.
He was out,
good.
yeah, and then backtracked on it, and then there's been so much going on with him. So there is talk about him getting traded as well.
Where would you like to see Tyreek Hill go and still be a good? I mean, because talk about someone that really for our purposes for fantasy football still could have a lot left in the tank. Well, it's the same conversation we have with Davante Adams, not necessarily washed, but just maybe needs a better team, better change of scenery.
Maybe Green Bay.
Ooh, that could be good. All right, look at us coming up with our own bold predictions. Like, it's awesome. So I'm curious about the running backs, and we talked about this yesterday, but I'm really curious to see what the Bills do at running back, because if they have this history where Bean does not go ahead and give those second contracts out to running backs drafted, then I'm curious if James Cook comes down from that $15 million ask and they get something together, because he was good for them last season and for us in fantasy, but maybe if not, he's on the move if he's really that unhappy.
It doesn't feel like they're going to pay him. You mentioned a couple of the reasons why, and
$15 million.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
But I understand from Cook's perspective. We know it's tough for running backs to get paid, and he's coming off a season where he had 18 total touchdowns, but we saw the Bills just didn't utilize him full time. He only had 207 carries. You saw Ray Davis, Tyler Johnson in the mix, and that's the way they like to operate. And probably from their perspective, they're like, why are we going to pay this guy $15 million? We're going to use multiple backs, and he's coming at the end of his contract, so we'll just move on. I don't know if they'll draft a running back, though.
Oh, you don't think? You think that Ray Davis wasn't bad for them if we just look at the depth chart?
Yeah,
I think they have someone?
I think they have other needs.
Oh, well, they for sure have other needs. I think corners being one of them, but
yes.
Yeah, like really badly. Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson. Ray Davis was the one that made some waves over there. Because was James Cook injured last season? Did he sit out a game? No,
I don't think he did. If it won at most, but no, he was healthy.
Okay. Well, the last, let me just say this: 3 running backs get drafted in round 1 for the last bold prediction. That hasn't happened since 2012. This could be the year with how deep this running back class is.
I think it could be 2. We know 2 for sure, and then I feel like we will get a third one late in the first round.
Oh, I like it. All right, we're going to continue on here. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. FantasyLife.com to go and subscribe to that newsletter. Check out all of those articles that we've talked about today. We'll see you same time here tomorrow.